Good morning, everyone. We are on session 2 of the Adult Learner Community of Practice. This is a community where we hope to share information and work together to better serve our adult communities. And in that, uh, I've asked Dan Levitt from Murray State to do some sharing with us today. And before we do that, before we have Dan jump into this, if you would please just put your name, your institution, and your position out in the chat, that will help us. Sandra and Ruth, you've already done that, so you don't necessarily need to put your position unless you want to. That way we have a record of your attendance here and we know what's going on. So there you go. And with that, as you're doing that, Dan, I have you as first if you want to do that, but it really works better if you go second. Is that okay?
Yes, second is fine. And I'll apologize on the front end. I'm coming in kind of cold, so I'm not sure exactly what you want to hear. So second is fine, and I'll improvise.
Okay. There you go. Excellent. That's sort of what this is all about. We are a community of sharing information, so we will make this work. And let me explain why Dan and I are having this conversation. When I originally did the invite to Murray State, I gave them the wrong date. I gave them yesterday. Uh, I fat fingered the computer. I'm an old fat guy, so things like that happen. And Dan has moved things around in his schedule to make this work. And Dan, this is fantastic because what we're going to talk about today is funding. And what I want you to do is just share what you guys are doing with the Murray State Racers Finish Scholarship Program. So we'll jump in that in just a minute. I'm going to go past your slide and we'll come back to it in a minute. But let's go back to the last time we had a meeting last month. And this meeting is always on the last Wednesday of the month. We had a multimeter session that we went, or Mentimeter. I keep calling it multimeter. That is a piece of electrical equipment, which I have no skills with because I'm very respectful of electricity. It can hurt you. In that Mentimeter discussion, we ask you guys to provide us with some challenges, what the challenges are that you see or barriers that you see for adult learners. And you had a great discussion there. Lots of things came out, but the biggest one was money. And money really goes right into the next question that we had. And that was, what are the top priorities? Again, funding. Funding was the number one priority that you saw out there. So we want to address funding. How do we work with that? Where do we go with that? And to do that, I've asked Dan to come and share a little bit about what they're doing and how they're doing some funding to make this work. So Dan, I'm going back to your picture here. I pulled this off your LinkedIn, so I hope it's okay. You guys have got a fantastic program over at Murray State. So share a little bit about who you are, what you're doing, and how you guys are engaging adult learners to come back to Murray State.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll give a little background on our program and actually I'm glad to know that this work group is out there. I would love to be a part of it in the future, and I know Sarah and maybe a few others. So, good morning, Dan Levitt. I'm the executive director for the Center for Adult and Regional Education at Murray State. It's typically what the department is what most universities would just call continuing education or outreach or something like that. So, but we're very focused on the adult student. We serve 5 regional campuses, mostly non-traditional and adult students. And then we have a academic program um, that is it's our Bachelor's of Integrated Studies. Some of you may be familiar with that. It's a degree completion program. I know we all have something that looks looks like it, so or something similar. But it's quietly, and I don't necessarily like the fact that it's quietly, but it's quietly, it's one of the top one, two, or three degree producing programs at the university. And I think it's quietly so because people don't see adult students. They're they exist at our regional campuses or online, and they're not as much a part of the university campus and culture that, they're not here on Mondays through Thursdays on, between 10 and 3 o'clock each week. So they're working and they have families and lots of other things. So typically their education's uh, second or third or fourth down the list of priorities. So I guess I'm probably speaking to the choir on all of that. You all know that if you're familiar with adult students, but we've to kind of um, continue our success with adult students. We've in the last few years we've tried some different forms of stopped out campaigns, and we haven't done that through a third party. We do that internally and have had some uh, pretty decent success with that. And I'm guessing that all the other state institutions are trying or thinking about stopped out campaigns, and I'd be glad to talk about that. But this latest version, we're actually calling it something other than a stopped out campaign. That's an internal term. We're promoting it as the Racers Finish program, and we have a scholarship attached to that. So we are targeting former Murray State students, and they recipients will receive up to a $120 per credit hour discount, and that's up to a maximum of $2,500. So that might run out fairly quickly, depending how um, how a student goes about completing their education. If someone has just a few hours to go, that's a pretty good incentive. If someone has 60 credit hours to go, that's a good start for them. But yeah, that's the gist of the scholarship. Again, to be in the program, someone has to have at least 60 hours before they're admitted into the program. They have to have a minimum GPA. They need to have been stopped out of Murray State for at least 2 years. And I guess another key component, they must have an outstanding balance of $2,500 or less. So that's the kind of the basics of the Racers Finish scholarship and what we're doing. I'd be glad to go into more detail, or if there's questions about that, Dallas, if there's anything other than that you wanted me to discuss.
So I thought maybe we would take this time and just ask some questions on how you guys are doing this. And I have some thoughts on this. First of all, you have the cap of $2,500 that they have in debt. Can you talk a little bit about what happens as the students come back and they finish each semester? So Dr. Pfister and I have talked about it a little bit. So I've got some enough knowledge to be dangerous, but I thought it was interesting how you guys are approaching that.
Um, yeah, that's
And where I'm driving on that is you guys pay back a little bit of it at a time as they continue along in their degree completion, correct?
right. If a student has debt, so that's such a big deal, and I forget the term that goes along with it. It's oh, there's kind of a someone else can shout it out, whatever the industry term is for debt that stays with someone that might prevent them from re-enrolling. Anyhow, as long as they've worked that debt off over, by graduation, then that's the main thing. But yeah, and then I saw someone asked, the per credit hour discount is $120, which is about 30% of our per credit hour tuition. So it's about a 30% discount. It would probably be easiest to advertise it that way. It's just that we'd like to say 30% discount on returning adult students who meet these qualifications, but it taps out at $2,500.
So in this, you're making sure that the student has some skin in the game too. They have some responsibilities. It's just not wiping out this debt. It is a progressive thing. So they've got to do their part to come every semester, get good grades, and keep moving forward toward that degree completion. Is that a fair comment?
Oh, sure. Yeah, as always. And I think with the, you know, usually with returning adult students, they're better students than they were before they left, before they stopped out. So, for whatever reason they stopped out, usually it's they started a family or started a great new job, or maybe they partied too much, whatever the reason. When they come back, they usually make better students. I think we've all probably had that experience with that. That's an observational.
Right. Yes. Well, I kind of fit in that group. I stopped out for a little while, and when I came back, I was really serious about it and completed the degree pretty quickly as an adult, a little bit more mature, not nearly as much partying, and this is the population that we want to go after. So, how did you guys come up with your list of names?
So I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I think we've got a list of stop outs from the university. So this is something that I've just learned through experience of stopped out campaigns, but um, and it's probably a fairly obvious statement. I just have to learn by experience, so I have to learn the hard way. But the sooner they are to having stopped out, the closer to their stopped out time, the more likely they are to enroll. And I think that's probably something that can be quantified. If you work with some of these consultants, they'll tell you the same. But so our stopped out list that we're working for this Racers Finish campaign is I think folks who have stopped out within the last 3 years, going back, I think it's 4 years. Going back 4 years from that point in time. So uh,
Mhm.
I forget the years, but it's generally we're reaching out to a cohort of students who've stopped out within a 4 year time period, starting they would have stopped out 3 years ago or longer at that.
Sure, sure. Did you see Lisa's follow-up question, by the way?
I didn't let me check. Let's take a look here. Um, Missing the discount. Okay. Unclear, do you also forgive some of the past due balance? We don't. We don't forgive a past due balance. So they just need to work on paying that off while completing the degree. So typically a student, I think I'm saying this right, and uh, if Dr. Pfister's on, I don't think she's on here yet, but I could be corrected on this, but typically a student cannot re-enroll if they have a balance of more than $200. And so this is kind of that, we're going around that's a big preventative for students because, usually a student's debt to the university, if they stopped out with a balance, it's more than $200. So we're allowing them to re-enroll with a balance of $2,500 or less, but they do have to pay that back.
So with that, how successful are you? What kind of success are you saying? Return on investment?
I can't speak to this campaign because we're soon to get started. We're still working through some
Oh,
details.
okay. So this is new.
This is brand new. In the past, when we've done stopped out campaigns, we've um, had a success rate of anywhere between 4 and 6%. So, around 5%. And that sounds low, but when you're working with a large list and you're getting 5% back, that means something to the university's enrollment, and certainly means a lot to the students who are coming back, who, again, it's in the back of their mind that they left a lot of time, effort, and money on the table when they stopped out, and probably still paying a lot of debt on all that time, effort, and money. They have nothing to show for it. So it's always in the back of their mind to finish. And then so it just, they need that, we kind of put the opportunity in front of them and let them know how close they are to completing a degree. It's not always the degree that they started in, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, but it's a bachelor's degree. And so, yeah, that's means a lot to those who finish and their
Sure.
family.
That's the whole thing that we want to do is get more of our adults to realize that they can finish. So other questions? Anybody, if you want to just unmute your mic and ask your question, please jump in there. All right, Dan, I'm here. Oh, there you go. Go ahead, D.
Good morning, everybody. No, I was just noticing in the chat. I saw somebody posted. Does it forgive like past debts, or is that something they have to work on before they can apply for the 25?
Well, yeah, it's not, the debt's not forgiven, but they can re-enroll. And they'll, they need to pay it down by graduation.
So this is at least a way to get them back into the system,
Yes.
mitigating one of those barriers. Okay.
Yeah, a debt of more than $200 is a barrier. Usually someone, if they've left with a debt of $200 or less, that's not going to be too much of a preventative for them starting back. But um, people are working and paying for kids and, their own school. A $2,500 debt or $1,500 debt, that's a lot to bite off all at once.
So let me just follow up with D a little bit more. What are you thinking there? You asked the question about helping pay back. Do you think if there were some kind of program to help with that, that we would be able to attract even more folks?
Yeah, I really do. I think if there was a program in place to help people pay past debts, that would be more attractive to a lot of our non-traditional students. Like you mentioned earlier, when people set out for a little while, then they come back, they're more serious. So they're more in depth to graduate to completion and keep moving forward. So if there was something in place that can help them with those past debts, um, just to get them in the door, like that would be something great.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, but you know, there are challenges with that. We'll talk more about that in the next couple of slides because I'm going to ask you guys to give us some suggestions. So, Dee, when we get to the next Mentimeter survey, I'm going to ask you to throw that out there so we can talk more about it. And Dan, the way you guys are approaching this, you are lowering one of those barriers, okay, which is a great incentive, and you're doing it in-house, which is a great initiative too. So just continuing on. Let's see here. In the chat, we have another comment and a link to Hazard. Let's see who put this out here. Lily, you want to comment on that?
Oh, sure. I was just referencing what Dee was mentioning. Yeah, Hazard, Southeast Community and Technical College, and I feel like Maysville all have, and there may be other KCTCS colleges that have their own debt forgiveness initiatives. And they've shown to have a 5-to-1 ROI, if not even higher, in the amount of debt that they forgive for the student. It's over time. And so like each semester that a student continues enrollment, they forgive a little bit more of the debt. And then when they complete the degree, then whatever even may be out, like a remaining debt is completely just eliminated. And then the student graduates, and then the amount that they're generating from that tuition that they're, you know, continuing to enroll in is much more significant than the debt that they've forgiven. So that is definitely something to think about. I know that there's a lot of our universities, I think the University of Louisville, and maybe they want to, if they're on the call, maybe they want to share anything about a new program. Oh, I see Hannah posted the
Yep.
U of L Comeback Cards program. Yeah, Hannah, would love to hear as any early successes that you guys are seeing with your program, your new debt forgiveness initiative. I think that's the first university in Kentucky that's doing a debt forgiveness initiative.
Yeah, so it's really exciting. We just had our first cohort of students enroll in the spring semester as part of the Comeback Cards program. So as I said in the chat, it works to gradually forgive past balances up to $4,000. So if a student enrolls part-time, we forgive $500. If they enroll full-time, we forgive $1,000. And we just work with them to, you know, ensure that they have some kind of plan to cover that current balance for the semester they're enrolling in, because obviously we don't want them to end up just with more debt at the university. So we talk to them about utilizing financial aid or, you know, employee tuition benefits and things like that to cover it. But we had, I want to say, close to 15. We had some other ones trickle in kind of at the halfway point of the semester, enroll in the spring, and then a good amount of people who have already expressed interest for summer and fall. So we're working with them right now to get it enrolled. But yeah, we are really, really excited about this program, and it's really going to change a lot of lives for these students who have, you know, had this barrier. So yeah.
One thing that we kind of saw, well, one thing that I heard when we were learning about some of the debt forgiveness programs was that they didn't have a great financial sustainability model set up for them. And so, like, they were initially funded with foundation money or some kind of grant money. But then as they were calculating this ROI that they were generating through the tuition revenue, they didn't put any money back in the pot. And so then they ran out of the initial 20K or 100K or whatever they had for their original debt forgiveness. But then they were like, oh gosh, now we've got to raise more money for more debt forgiveness money. But it's like, but you just said that you generated 5-to-1, you know, like, I don't know. So that's just something for folks to think about as you're maybe if you're interested in developing a debt forgiveness initiative, how do you make it a self-sustaining program so that you don't have to continually be fundraising for it, you know, when it's clearly going to have a great ROI for your institution. And then the other question I had is around the transcript withholding, you know, new policy out of the Department of Education, because I think that our institutions are going to be in a position where, gosh, if I don't have some kind of real great incentive for folks to be coming in, and I'm really bringing them in, and debt forgiveness may be a great way to get students to come back, they will be able to request their transcripts and go somewhere else, you know? And so the goal is to get them back to you so that they can complete their programs and hopefully even have a quicker time to degree, because they've got so many credits already with your institution. So just as another maybe potential piggybacking of those two opportunities there, how do we get out ahead of transcript, withholding, guidelines, as well as some debt forgiveness opportunities.
So there's a lot of different ways that we can do this, and it's about sharing the information. Dan, you made the comment that you're glad to see this community practice happening. It's so that we can have these kinds of discussions and talk about what you're doing and what's happening with Hannah over at U of L, and then expand, as Lily talked about, engaging different ways that we might be able to do this. All right. Dan, any final comments there?
No, I was just looking at some of these other. There was a question here that I was interested in answering, because it's oh, Sarah asked how we secure this is internally funded, so it's just yeah, that was one thing. It seems like there's so many scholarships. There must be hundreds of scholarships at the university, and they're all kind of geared towards the traditional student, and so this is purely a self-funded initiative by the institution. It's basically a discount that we're eating. But and then there was another one, additional support, academic or otherwise, tailored for them. This would just kind of give me the opportunity to talk about something that we really discuss internally, and that's just how we approach the adult student. And we've got a team of advisors at the regional campuses and here at the Murray campus that the name of our department is the Center for Adult and Regional Education, and so the acronym is CARE, which is a little hokey, but we internally we talk about the CARE standard, and it's what we do to kind of do all of the extra hand holding and all of the extra support that adult students need. So if it's assistance with filling out the FAFSA, meeting them where they are, that type of thing. We all remember probably, what was it, 10 years ago or more, there was an institution that in the state, it was a private institution that closed down, and they were very successful at what they did, and that was serving adult students. It was getting adult students into their programs, and they kind of had this model where they would meet someone at a McDonald's and help them. They'd fill out their application and FAFSA and all that, and there may or may not have been some shady things going on there, but people at our institution at the time had a lot of negative things to say about that institution and what they were doing. And I kept saying, but yeah, they're beating us at the adult student game. Like, they're at least enrolling them. They know how to get to them. And so we can learn a lesson from that. So that's something that we kind of embrace in terms of how we support and help students, and we call it internally the CARE standard. And so that's other than that, I mean, that's just really a chance for me to brag on my staff and how we approach students. But it's the extreme handholding that a lot of non-traditional and adult students need to kind of get through the process. When I know that a single working mother of two students, of two kids, it takes a lot to get that person in our front door. There's a lot of barriers that are preventing her from just getting to us before she's even fill out an application. So we try to make that path forward as easy as possible.
And that's a great thing that you guys are doing there, which is what we're hoping to grow in Kentucky, because there is a significant number of adult learners that we do need to hold their hand. We need to help them return back. We need to, it's more than just holding their hand, it's extending a hand to invite them back. So great work with what you guys are doing. Lots of positives in what you're doing. There are challenges out there. You've addressed the challenge. I think the 30% return or decrease in tuition is a huge benefit for what you're doing here. So let's get back together again next year and talk about your success after you've had some time, and maybe compare some notes with Hannah and some of our other schools. And we'll have Lily, maybe we can do something at the Student Success Summit next year along this line. So excellent. Thank you, Dan, so much for accommodating us. We appreciate your input. And let's go ahead and move into the next part of the discussion that I'd like to do, if I can get the slides working the way that I want them to work. There we go. We talked through all the different issues.
Dallas, are you still with us? There are a lot of people named Dallas on this call, y'all. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Many of you are named Dallas. He might have just lost his internet access. Let's see. I'll just give him 1 minute if you don't mind. We'll see if he can pop back in and access. Mary, I see you're on here. Did you and Dallas have any convos about the next steps, or what do you have a sense of what was going to happen next? Let's see.
All right, so I am back.
There you are. We waited patiently.
Well, thank you. I am balancing out the multimeter session that I want to do and trying to share that at the same time. So let's see if this works. There's the multimeter question. If you want to join in and answer a question here, this will help us to gather some information. Lily, this is my first outing with multimeter. So
Mentimeter.
Mentimeter. Then I might lean on you for some help, but let's try this and see if it works. I posed the first question of how can we use Project Graduate to get better at this? And Lily, I don't think I'm doing this right.
What do you mean?
Oh, there we go. Nope, nope. Something's not popping on the screen for me here.
So everybody, if you go to either on your phone or on your computer, you'll type in menti.com into your web browser, and then it'll prompt you for the code and the digits. And so you'll put in the 8-digit code that's at the top of the screen there, and then you'll have a question prompt, and it's a short answer, but try to keep it short. So the question that we're supposed to respond to, funding was the #1 priority for discussion. So that's what we want to talk about today. What do you want to talk about related to funding? So that'll help guide our next step of our conversation. So we all can just put in our responses, and then as soon as we submit, it'll appear here on the screen. So what do we want to talk about funding?
See, I'm not seeing anything show up here.
It might just take a
Oh,
second.
there it is. Okay, good. There's one.
Yeah.
I would assume you did that one, Lily, so thank you.
Wow, it's supposed to be anonymous, Dallas.
I know, but I saw you. I know you're trying to help me get better at this, so thank you.
Yes. So Project Graduate, does that come with funding? Okay, sources of external funding. Project Graduate, how can we generate need-based aid tied to existing programs?
There we go. Good.
How to message the clear path to graduation through funding opportunities and strategies. So each person only gets to put in one response, but if you have a couple of ideas, you could just separate them with commas or whatnot, since there are several characters. Getting institutional buy-in for funding for access to wraparound services, so making sure your adult learners have access to all of the services. How to reduce sticker shock.
Sticker shock. That's a very good one. And this works for both the stop outs that we've seen and the folks who have never attempted college. I think the employer-based education benefits and tuition waivers is something that a lot of folks don't think about. How can we use our employers to facilitate either returning to or beginning as an adult? Okay, good comments. All right, now let's see if this works. I'm going to stop that one and we're going to go to another one.
Okay, so everyone stay in your Mentimeter poll, and it should automatically advance. Okay, what are some of the sources of funding? Okay.
So this question is more about what have you found or how have you found ways to address this? For example, Lily talked about folks who have gotten funding through philanthropic organizations or something like that, but didn't restore the money. How are you finding ways to do this? And remember, you only get one shot. So put commas if you have several different things to talk about.
Well, this one actually has 3 different, you have 3 different answers for this one.
Okay. I do like this Mentimeter process. It lets us to collect some good information that we can, oh, there you go, endowments that we can use to share with one another. And then collect it and be able to do even more with it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So utilizing end of core EOC program. Can you help me out with that a little bit? I'm not sure I know what that is. End of
I was
course.
referring to the Equal Opportunity Center, the TRIO
Ah.
program.
Oh, okay. Very good. Small internal grants. So we've got a lot of folks doing some funding already. Maybe we need to talk more about how we can do that. Alum, I think that's another untapped resource out there. So if you've put something on here on a way that you're doing some funding sourcing, then maybe drop us a line and tell us how you're doing that, and we can discuss that more in the future, COP meetings. Amazon Career Choice. Interesting. All right. We'll stop there. So I'd like to throw it back out to the group. If you want to talk about a funding source that you found that's been very successful for you, can you share a little bit more about it? Just turn your mic off and jump in there. So whoever commented on Amazon, can you talk to that for just a moment? Share how you're using that with the rest of the group. All right. We'll have to work on this discussion part a little bit more, and but not to hold everyone up. Let's go ahead and talk about the next part of what I want to share with everyone, and maybe set the stage for our future discussions. So going back to our slides, give me just a second to do the screen share on the slides, and we'll jump back into those. All right. You should, nope, maybe you're not seeing these. Hang on just a second. You know what? Today is just one of those days. So the next thing that I'd like to do is just talk about conferences that are coming up, or have something that you want to share about a conference. If you would, please go to the Impact Exchange and throw it out there. I've put one out here as an example. What conferences are you attending this year? My intention is to attend the CALE conference. And the dates are out there and how you can sign up for that as well. The CALE conference is a great conference that will help you in better understanding the adult learner community. And this is a great way for us to share information very quickly as things come up. So it also promotes us using the Impact Exchange, where we want to be able to collect all of this information. Additionally, under the Adult Learner channel, you'll find the videos for all the sessions that we've done. Hopefully they'll be cleaned up a little bit from today, but we'll see. The next thing that I'd like to talk about is just things that you're concerned about. What are you seeing in your community that you want to share with us? What are you interested in? What would you like to see us discuss more in the future? Open mic.
Well, Dallas, since you mentioned CALE, I mean, they've been at the forefront for many, many years for credit for prior learning. And I think that that's something that we still have a lot of room for improvement as a state. And I also feel like if we're going to begin to do a better job with credit prior for learning, we need to talk about the transferability of that as well. At the very minimum, just among ourselves within the state to be able to be good partners.
Sure. Great. Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa. I think that also came up at the transfer convening that we had 2 weeks ago, didn't it? So I think that's a hot topic.
Lily, earlier you mentioned the federal legislation coming down in the summer about transcripts. I do think that's a conversation that I would like to have with the larger group about what that will mean for adult learners who will be able to, come back to a university or transfer away from a university, and how we strategize as a larger group about how to make sure that's a smooth transition for our adult learners, whether they come back to our institutions or if they go somewhere else, what that would look like for them.
Dallas, in the last Adult Learner Community of Practice meeting, did I highlight the Ithaca project?
You did.
Okay,
did.
so then Hannah, just in case you weren't with us, Kentucky is a part of a project right now where we're working with Ithaca S&R on kind of a policy scan. We have reached out to all of our university and KCTCS business offices, as well as our adult learner community, like points of contact to learn more about our policies and practices around transcripts and I think debt collection processes for students that have outstanding balances. And so we're trying to get a better understanding of what do we do, and then how are we planning to move forward so that we can share those practices across one another. And then CPE will be planning to host a meeting this fall. And I believe we're looking at some dates in October right now where we're going to have that exact conversation. And so all of you will be invited, and we'll send out that save the date. It is a very timely conversation to have. So stay tuned, and thanks for bringing that up.
Great. Thank you, Lily.
Yeah. I'm glad you're interested in having that conversation.
Yes. Yes.
I was just going to piggyback off of my EOC comment earlier, just to be more clear. I think one of the greatest things that we're doing right now at our college is we are working very closely with community partners. A lot of these community partners, we see each other at all of these events all of the time, where they're referring out to us, we're referring out to them, and kind of being more like having a relationship with them has seemed to really increase the relationships that we're having with their clients, and in turn their clients have then come to us. In particular, my latest example, I had a veteran who was working with the Kentucky Career Center, had no interest in going back to school, But after showing, that relationship that we had with the Kentucky Career Center and working with them at an event to try to just get his transcripts, his military transcripts into shifted over to college transcripts, translated, sorry. He then decided he wanted to go to school. So I think just those relationships that we have, working with our EOC, I go everywhere with them. We are hand holders for some of these adults, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. So I think the more that we do that, I might meet somebody and they might not be at the point of their life where they're ready to go back to school, but then continuing that relationship through the community, I'll see them again at another community partners facility. And at that point, they're like, hey, I've seen you a few times now, let's talk. So I just think that's one of the biggest things that we're doing right now to increase our adult enrollment.
Great. So I do have a question for you. I don't know how you did this, but you've got my name on your discussion. So if you can change the name on there, then I can know who you are, or please introduce yourself. I don't know if everyone else is seeing the name.
I see your name on everybody's. My name is Nikki Holgraver. I'm the adult recruiter at Sky CTC.
Okay. Thank you, Nikki.
There are a lot of Dallases in this room today, Dallas, and we're not sure how that happened.
I did send out a direct link, so that may have done it. So
There you go.
yeah. Learning as we go, just part of the challenge. All right. Any other burning topics? All right. Well, we are coming to the end of the hour, so this is great timing. Even with all the challenges, we've still gotten through it fairly quickly. I just want to talk about what's ahead. The spotlight sessions for the next 2 months. Next month in May, we'll be mapping for success, identifying barriers in adult learner onboarding. So Nicole has done some great work at Northern Kentucky University and K-State. And she has graciously said that she will share with us this whole idea of journey mapping. So we're looking forward to that and how that can be done. She does know that it is on the last Wednesday of the month, because I gave her the right information after I messed it up with Murray State. So that's all good there. And then Carl Wilson from our own CPE is going to share in June about a new program that they're doing with Workforce that's going to address getting adult learners into a pilot project, particularly transitioning service members into healthcare. So looking forward to him sharing that. And with that, that kind of wraps up our day. Any other questions or comments, or if you want to connect, there's some ways to connect with us. Parting comments, anybody? All right. Seeing nobody jumping forward, you get back 5 minutes of your day. Have a great day. Take care.
Bye, everyone.